In a previous video, we talked about dimensional constraints or constraints that you actually add a number to or an angle, such. This video, we're going to talk about, well, in CATIA lingo, they call it geometrical constraints. It's the constraints that you add to things to make them do something else relative maybe to something else. And what I'm trying to say by that is instead of being something like 10 millimeters, it's vertical or it's perpendicular, parallel, tangent, right? Those kind of things. So to get started, we'll go ahead and make a sketch, and then pick a plane. Now, to get started, I'll just kind of review, do something we've done before, but we don't really think terribly too much about it. We like maybe make a rectangle, just plain old regular 2-point rectangle. And you click and you make it, and by default, a thing happens that, you know, maybe you've seen but you didn't think too much about, but these are vertical and horizontal constraints that are added automatically. And so if I grab a line here, I can stretch it, but I can't tilt it. Well, you can't tilt a line by grabbing a line anyways, but I could if it was a point. So I grab a point, and the only thing that happens is the box changes sizes. So for example, if I were to make a regular line, I purposely made it at an angle because if you make anything horizontal or vertical, you will automatically get this constraint added, okay? And CATIA, you can turn that off and on with a button. That would be kind of nice to have here, just in case. But what you also can do is, if you don't want it to happen, I'll show you that really quick. You can come up here, say we're going to grab a line tool, and I'll just put it above here for whatever reason. If I click and I bring it out, you can see, you know, the numbers are kind of in the way. There you go. See, it's going to automatically make a horizontal constraint. If I were to get it right on that point, then it wants to snap to that point or this point. And as you get more, you know, items on your sketch, it'll want to snap to other things here. So if you do want to turn that off, just because you wanted to maybe make something kind of like almost a horizontal line, but you didn't want it to snap to it. If you hold down Control, that's the big secret right here. Hold down Control, it turns off constraints temporarily. And so that's pretty convenient because I could come up here, I could get close to something like right by that line, but it's not going to snap to it, so I could go ahead and click. Then I could hold it down still, and I could get real close to this one here and click. But then I could, if I wanted to, I could let go of Control, and now snapping is back. And then say I went there, right? So you could do that if you like. So I'm sure I'll probably bring that back, explain it again later. So I'm gonna get rid of all that, get back to this line. So now we have this line sitting here and there is no constraint on it. And if I grab this point, I can stretch it out and I can tilt it by angle. That is what I could not do with this right here because of the constraints that already exist, the ones that were automatically made. Another thing to be aware of is as you are manipulating things around, if you grab an item here and you start to move it around, if it does happen to get close to certain types of objects, see like right there, or right down here, if I let it go, oh, now it's going to do that. Start over here. If I bring this down and it stays horizontal, oops, snap. Snapped right to horizontal. So now suddenly I can't move it. This, remember this, because this is going to bug you. You won't be trying to do what I just did. You'll be working in tight corners somewhere and you'll be moving something around and it will snap to something that you didn't realize that it was snapping to just by you dragging it around, and then you try to move it, it doesn't move, and then things get worse and worse. So I'll undo that so it's back. Give me another example. So I bring it down here and I just bring it down and snap to that line, and automatically it is now, if I grab the line to show you, see, it's that line, the point is stuck to the square, so it's resizing the whole thing with it. So it's kind of a bummer. Now, getting back to all of these things, if you want to delete any of these features, like these verticals and horizontals, or the constraint that was made automatically by that point, if I hover over this and I click on the point, what you'll see is a couple constraints, maybe we don't know what they are yet, show up. These are coincident constraints. They're these ones over here. And it's like a point on a point, right? They're both in the same location. Well, one of these is the point at the end of the line that we stuck to here. Another one of these is the concept of the two lines being connected. See, there's one over here. We didn't do this, but by the fact that it's a rectangle, it gets created, again, automatically. Same down here, where these 2 points are connected. So go ahead and delete this, and then as before, well, let me get this out here first. So we bring this out just as before. Holding down Control stops that automatic constraint from happening. If you're dragging things around and you know you're going to start getting kind of close to stuff like this or this, hold down Control. So you just don't. So you can wiggle it around, you can move it where you want, and you don't have to risk it automatically snapping to something. You could be very, diligently watching right here where the mouse is to make sure it's not snapping onto anything. But what you don't realize is this line itself suddenly became parallel or, perpendicular to some other feature over somewhere else, and then it snaps to that as well. So watch out for that. I have kind of a second part of this, which is kind of a glitch, I guess we'll say. Say you did do this, and it snaps to that. Now, when you click on the points, just like I was showing over here, see there's a constraint right there. It's a coincidence, and the same in each corner, right? If I go here, this one's got 2. Okay, so one of these should be that line connection, but I can never seem to pick the right one. And I'm probably going to do this all the time, so sorry in advance. In CATIA, you can take any one of the constraints and you can double click on it. You can open it up and you could see what this constraint goes to. A lot of people don't use it. A lot of people maybe don't know or whatever else. But in here, I can't seem to find a way to do this. So here's what I'm getting at. Is I pick this. So watch this carefully. I'm going to pick this first one right here. So I pick it and I'll delete it. Because maybe I'm assuming that maybe the one closest to the object was the first one and then they just keep stacking them up. Okay, fine. So I get rid of that. Now I grab this point and I drag it. Nope, it wasn't that line connected to that. It was this whole line here connected is part of the square. So no. Oops, Control Z. Oops, too far back. So we're back here again. Now this time I'll pick the inside one. So I pick the inside one and I hit delete. That must have been it. No, it's still the same one. So undo again. Maybe they shift order somehow or another in the course, and Control Z doesn't do it. Okay, fine. Get rid of them both. Okay, they're both gone now. And the point just comes free. So now I take, no, and the line is still friggin' stuck to the other line. Oh, look, there's a constraint now. So now I can delete that, and now it comes free. How bizarre is that? Back to business. So what I want to show here is all these various constraints that you have over here on the side. Depending upon your user interface, later when we change this, these will end up here. So, oh, by the way, did you just notice I clicked away and some more things lit up? If you pick a thing, only the things that you can use light up. So if I pick a line, then different things show up. If I pick this line and this line, other things show up. These are the things you could do between the two objects or the multiple objects that you pick. So I guess we'll just go straight down the list. How about this? So if we want to make something coincident to it, that's the thing that we're playing around with before, what you can do is you can pick this icon and then go pick the two things that you want to stick together. You could do that. Or you could hold down Control. So here's the keyword, right? Hold down Control, pick the two things, and then do the action. See? Either way. One may be better than the other, depends. So I'm going to take this constraint, I'm going to pick that right there, and then I'm going to pick that right there, and now they'll stick together. So now they're coincident. By the way, notice again that you're now still holding the coincident tool. So if you don't want to use this and you're going to click on something next, make sure you hit escape to turn that off. All right. Now, we'll get rid of this. By the way, you want to see something funny? Hit this point, and how about we pick this first one right here? We'll hit delete, and wow, look at that. Just the way it's supposed to happen. So If you actually make a coincidence over here, then it performs as I guess you say you'd expect. Now I want to tick this right here and maybe this line, and I choose that and I say coincident. And now what it just did is zoom in here. See how it's hanging out over here? It is actually on that line. It's kind of like on the not the plane, but you know the extent of the line. So you can bring it anywhere, but you can't bring it up and down or get it away from the line. So it's stuck on the line. So that's a convenient thing. There's a coincidence. Get rid of that. Move it away. Okay. Now, say I have another line that I make here. I'm holding down Control so I don't stick to anything. Side note, when I hit the line tool, I'm doing this pretty quickly and I haven't mentioned this yet. So the line tool is right here. The line tool is right here. There's L for the line tool. That's what I keep hitting all the time. When you click with the line tool, in other programs that might be called polyline, if you click, it will just keep going, right? And there's other neat tricks, like if I hold it down right here, watch this. You might like this. Now, don't click and then hold it. Hold it right now, and then you drag out, and then you can make a shape. Hold it and drag out. You can make a shape. Hold it, drag out, and we make a curve, right? So anyways, that's the line tool. Let me undo that. Okay. So I use the line tool. I made another line. I want these two lines to be right in the same area for some reason. I want to stick them right on top of each other, let's say. So I'm going to pick this and that, and I'm going to say collinear, and now they're stuck together. You see? Now, sticking two lines together like this is probably kind of silly, and you don't want to have the double lines over the top of each other. What might be good, I mean, you know, all kinds of different situations, but maybe maybe you made a line and you stuck it here and you brought it out like this, and I want this even with this, right? And so I could do this, and maybe you could do parallel, right? Maybe you could do collinear. The next one is for circle things, so we'll make a circle here, and as usual, I'm snapping to the center there. I'm going to make another circle off to the side here, and this is really pretty convenient a lot of times because sometimes there's a lot of different points here. Maybe it's points stacked on top of each other and you don't want to risk sticking to one that you don't want to stick to. So you can pick the two objects here and then you say concentric and they'll stick together, right? Now, by the way, notice that the little circle that I drew out here snapped over to this one. And that, of course, is because the center one was stuck, well, to the center. If I go like this, if I go like this, I go like this. If I pick this one and then this one and they say concentric, that one goes there. If I pick this one and this one, then that one goes over there. You see? So if you don't want things jumping around all over the place, make sure that your circle is, well, you know, if you stick it in the center, you're good to go. But if I put it out here, then a little bit back to dimensional constraints, you might have to do something like make that center be so far away from there, and then you have to make it so far. Why did it do that? Like that, right? So now that circle is stuck in space. It hasn't been dimensioned, but I can't move it around. All I can do is like open it and, you know, make it bigger, right? So that's there, and then if you made another circle, then I could grab the edge, this edge, and I could say concentric. Next up is midpoint. Midpoint, I don't really ever use. I actually use it fairly frequently, but not through here. So if I have a line, any line hanging out anywhere, or it could be, let's say, a rectangle down here, and I have something, let's say I'm going to make another line, and I bring it down here, and I want it to stick on this box right here, but I want it to stick right in the center of it, right in the middle. And I always want it to follow the middle, not just now. If I change size of the box, I want it to stay stuck to the center. So I'll pick here, and then I pick this point, and the line that you want that point on. Not the line. I don't want the line stuck to the midpoint of this line. I want that point, that endpoint there, stuck to the midpoint of it. So you control select. So by the way, I'm picking a point. I hold down control, then I pick the line. Then I come over here, I hit midpoint, and it snaps to it. The angle, you know, it's not horizontal, so that's another constraint, right? So if I were to grab this and shrink it up, you see, the midpoint, it always stays on the midpoint. Now the reason I don't use it is because I can do this. I can grab the midpoint, or here, let's oh, there's that again, right? I'll make a line, and I bring it down, and I say, okay, I want to snap to the midpoint of this line. Well, first off, you see that X right there? That X means that it's going to snap to that line. So what would that be? That's a coincidence. Now, if I move over like this, all of a sudden you get that. And we haven't talked about this yet, but that's a right angle. That's a perpendicularity will get made. So that's another one of these constraints over on the side. If I keep scooting over and over, oh, look at that. And, oh, there's a midpoint. So I hit that there, and now I'm stuck, oops, right in the middle where I wanted it to be, okay? So that's typically what I do, but you could do it like we do it right here with that icon as well. All right, I'll get rid of that. And the next one over here is the fix unfix that I said never to use. It's always tough saying never, you know. It's always tough, you know, saying this is the way that you do it, this is the way you don't do it. A lot of things depend upon the industry that you're in and such, but really, I mean, in, you know, many years been doing this. I have used fix and unfix, I feel like, you know, not much more than 10 times. And the reason is each sketch and everything you make needs to be dimensionally constrained. You need to know what it is. Now, if I'm just smashing something out and I'm, you know, maybe I need some kind of a shape, sort of kind of like that. Yup, good enough. Extrude that, send it to the printer. There's my crazy ass shape. Maybe, you know, maybe that's okay. But in any kind of a production, I don't even want to say production, you're going to come back and you're going to modify something. So by fixing something, let me show you what it does first. So you maybe pick everything and you just say fix, and now it's all green. And it's showing you, not that I have anything against green, it's all green and it's just showing you that it's now locked, fixed, and you can't move it around or anything, you know? I have no understanding of how long this line is. If I go ahead and I make this thing and it's a little bit off, I can't come back here and just change this dimension by a little bit. So really, it's an easy button. That's what it kind of comes down to. If you want to use it for things, that's fine. I'm saying if you're trying to learn this and you eventually are going to get a job doing this somewhere, working in CAD with other people, that should be deleted. So anyways, that's fix and unfix. Done with that. Sorry, one last thing. I showed you fix, but I think it's probably obvious, but I didn't show you unfix. Ta-da! There you go. Fix, unfix. There's a line. And I take this line right here and I want it to be parallel. I hit it. Ta-da! They're parallel. So parallel is good. It's useful. Previously in the dimensioning video, you might need to make some things parallel so that you could then come back here and give it a dimension. A distance dimension. Sorry, right? A distance from line to line. They have to be parallel, because if they are not parallel and you go straight for dimensioning, then what you end up with is an angle. And if it's close enough, you might believe that the angle is actually the distance, and you go ahead and you edit because I need it to be 20 away from each other, and it does something like that. So it should be pretty obvious that you picked the wrong thing. So the typical thing to do would be take this, take that, make them parallel, D for dimension, come back here, go like that, and give it the dimension that you wanted it to be. So you have a line somewhere. I'll intentionally make it kind of crooked. And then you have another line. Say we came from out here and I connected. So now I snapped to that right there. There's my coincident, but obviously it is not perpendicular. So the methodology here again is hold down control, select the two objects, come over here, hit perpendicular, and there you go. That's it. The other way that you can do it that I keep talking about, but I'm not doing, is you can come over and you can hit perpendicular, and then you come and you pick this one, and then you pick that one. So whatever you like. By the way, again, remember, there's my perpendicular tool sitting right there. So if I happen to go click on something accidentally, it's going to make it perpendicular to something possibly. So make sure you hit escape. The horizontal and vertical button is one of the most used. Coincidence is probably the most used, I'd say, for me. I don't know. So I made a line. So here you have a line, and I need it to be horizontal. Other programs, you'll have constraints to make it horizontal and another button to make it vertical. This one in Fusion, they just go, well, whichever way it's closest, we'll snap it to that. And seems to work pretty good. As long as you weren't completely drunk and made your vertical line horizontal or close to it, you know, you'll be fine. So I hit here, and you hit horizontal, vertical. You see, it snaps it. There's my constraint. Now I can move it up and down. I grab a point. I'm grabbing a point right there. I can't bend it. If I want, like I've been doing before, I can delete the constraint, and now I'm free to move this all over the place again. If I bring it back to horizontal, there's my constraint. Boink, let it snap. Now I'm back to horizontal again. Okay. Let's take this, delete that, and let's grab this, and we'll tilt it back. We'll tilt it back this way, right? So then I hit that and hit this because it's mostly vertical now. Based upon our axis system, now it snaps it vertical. Okay, I think you'd probably be pretty hard pressed to get it just somewhere at 45 here to where it was so confused it couldn't figure out what it was going to do. So there's that. Maybe a small addendum I'd say to this is anytime you're using horizontal and vertical, if you get into more complicated world coordinate type systems, if you're creating axis systems, maybe you're not using X, Y, and Z and you're kind of tilted off axes. If you're working in the sketch, not straight and parallel and whatever to anything normal, then having any of these horizontals and verticals are going to kind of mess you up. If that makes sense, what I'm trying to say. All right, well, the next ones are a little bit more complicated enough that I'm going to put them into their own video later down the road, tangent and curvature, because they're kind of funny. They're in a way the same thing, but if you look up G0, G1, G2, G3 curvatures, that is kind of where we're headed with that. It's a thing I'm going to have to explain later. So, but I can show you what these things do essentially right here. So if I have a line and then an arc, and we'll make the arc right here. These arcs are not tangent. They do not, at this point, create a continuous curvature. If you were to run your hand over that, you would feel a sharp point right there. If that's not obvious, that surely should be. So if I move this, I'll let this sit here. By the way, you kind of got to have it sort of kind of close. You don't have to have it super close, but you can't have it like this and expect it to come out here all the time. It might end up wrapping all over weirdly. So I pick this, hold down control, pick that, and now you see only certain things light up. I can do a tangency right there, so I pick that, and what it does is it kicked the line out, but still the effect is the same. So here is my line right there. It ends at this point. At that point right there, if you were to, zoom in a whole pile of bunch here, there is no angular discontinuity so much right at that point. Now that point is kind of an infinite concept, so that's sort of the topic between this and curvature and what the hell you're actually doing here. A little bit of mathematic kind of stuff and a little bit, probably mostly aesthetics. So how do you feel about this curve? Do you want it to be a little bit more sloped or what have you? And in the case of a tangency, we're yeah, let's let that go for the next video. So there's tangent. Now if I make another line and I click on this, I bring it out. See that right there? Don't let it do that. Well, here, let's let it do that. So now that one's horizontal. So for this to go tangent to this, all of this is going to have to swing up. So I'll pick that, we'll pick that, and we'll say tangent. Oh, well, big liar. It just shoved that all out. So you see? Tangent constraint right there. To make this maybe a little bit more applicable, maybe you, we're going to do a box here, so I'll let that snap. See, I'm purposely letting that snap. Where's my horizontal? Where's my, oh, nope. See over on the side there on left? Right, look right over in here. It's a perpendicular. Then I'll bring it up here, bring it over, and okay, I'll just stop right there. So then if I want, I can then come in here and make an arc because I wanted to have some kind of curve on this shape. Now I can pull this out, and remember all this automatic stuff here, it's going to start snapping to all those things everywhere. So I want to be aware of that. So I can hold down Control, bring it out here somewhere, and click. I'll take this right here, I'll pick that right there, and hit tangency. Now this is tangent to that, but this up here is not tangent to that, so we got to do that side as well. You hit that, and now we have a nice smooth rounded corner. Okay, do it one more time just to add in another little point. If I click there and I snap to there, remember how I said hold down Control? If I don't hold down Control, and if I'm paying attention, if I bring this out here, I can get one, maybe even two. Ooh, that's going to be kind of hard. But you see right around in here? Watch. Boink. So that is a tangency right there. So, you know, maybe that's convenient. It'll snap there. So there's my tangency already, but I still have to do this last one. And then it's good. All right. Curvature. This is the... Conceptually, this is, I'd say, by far the hardest to understand or get it to see what it's doing. Not hugely, but quite a bit more. So if I delete that and I were to go ahead and add in another arc, just to show you, here and here, here and here, pick those two things. You see how it's not lit up here? Again, like I'm saying, it does something very similar, but it's not designed for continuous radius or straights. Well, you can kind of utilize that, but as far as an arc goes in here, it's not designed for continuous radius. So this is designed for a spline, and we haven't really talked about splines yet if there is an order to these videos. But if I have, say, a box right here, oh, what the hell, we'll do it like this. This is kind of what I was going to do for the demo video on the curvature topic. So if I take this here and I don't go with arc, I come down here to spline, and or I'll even just, I won't even, well, whatever. So spline tool, we can make all kind of curvy things all over the place, right? And then hit this. As I'm using the line tool, you hear me. By the way, I'm hitting the keyboard intentionally kind of harder than normal because I want you to hear when I'm hitting it, I guess. If I hit escape right now, it kills the whole spline. That's not what happens when I'm making the line tool. When I'm using the line tool, it just clips it off at the end. So when you're using the spline, you have to either remember that you're going to be ending, or know that you're going to end right here, and very carefully double click and it'll stop. If you don't double click quick, you might make a very tiny little piece on the end there. Or just hit the little check mark that they have out there. Hit, and then see that? It's on the line tool. I just never mentioned it. So click that, and there we have that. So spline can make all kind of curvy things. I just made a real simple arc here just to show you what's going on. So we're talking, in this case, I mean, you know, you can have all kinds of points here, and then these lines are your, kind of like your, Illustrator does, a lot of the graphics programs do this. They're handles, so to speak. In here, I think everything's just called a control point. So if I want, I can grab this handle, and the more I stretch it out, it's kind of like how tight does it bend around that point right there. So it's in a way, I feel like I've seen it in other programs called tension, and of course you can wiggle it around, and so that's really convenient. And this concept with the handles, I feel that it really just kind of takes away the whole idea of G0, 1, 2, and 3. And mathematically, I think I'm probably wrong, but as far as the effect goes, um, it seems like it sort of does away with it. So what I'm getting at here is tangent will make the thing tangent. If I pick this and then I pick that right here, now I can hit curvature, and you see it bends this in. And what curvature's goal is to create, I guess, what you'd call a G3 curvature, which really just takes this handle right here and changes it a little bit, you know? Because with a tangency, it seems like at this point that is somewhat infinite, you want to make the line that comes out just before it starts the curve to be even, parallel, sort of, with this line. Okay, there's more to it geometrically than that, but just kind of roll with that. Now, when it starts to curve off, at the rate at which it starts to curve off, tangency starts to let up first. Curvature lets it go out a little bit longer. And why I'm saying that the handles kind of change that whole thing is because you can do this. You know, it's not just like tangency might be like this, where curvature might be like that. That's kind of like almost like the effect that you see. So here, for example, I better start all over. Okay, go here, click. Oh, I think I missed that. I think I'm getting dingy. So I click here, click there, hit that. Okay. I won't touch anything. I won't change anything, I mean, none of the handles. Granted, this is not right in the middle, so that's going to affect. So if I hit curvature and I pick this and I pick that, I get that. Okay. If I come here and I pick this and I pick this and I say tangency, it's pretty close, right? Actually, they do have some slight differences, and I have this already done in a kind of a different video I was going to put together to show you this, how they are different subtly, but with a little bit of manipulation of the handles, you can make them exactly the same. All right. So I'm going to leave that there for now, because any more conversation is just going to kind of go deeper. If you're using a spline tool, you have handles, and handles will make the curvature, you know, come in and out like this. And actually both the tangency and the curvature, you see what they've done? They've taken this handle simply and locked it parallel or collinear with this top line right here. So I can't tilt it any longer. So but I can stretch it in and out, you see? This one can still turn. Okay, so maybe that's the initial takeaway here. You've got a couple buttons, very similar. Most people go for tangent. After you do this, if you do it with a spline, tweak it around, get it to your liking. By the way, you can also measure these handles. So again, if you're used to a graphics program where they have these handles on here, control points and manipulating, that's great. Here in this program, you want to make sure that you lock this down, because if you're wiggling this thing around, I want to know that where I left that off was 280, and of course you can do this, right? You can come over here and I can take this and I can make this be at an angle. Well, it's way the hell out there now. Whoa, it's super out there. And I could manipulate it that way. So we, again, just like we want to have the sketch all locked down, we want to have these control points locked down as well, which also means you're going to want to lock down this point. So I think I probably need to make a video just on dealing with splines, because they're great, they're cool, they're very artistic, but most of the time, probably almost all the time, when you think you want a spline, really what you should be using is multiple 3-point arcs. So you've got continuous radiuses, and I think you're going to have a lot better time. Because locking down a spline is kind of a pain in the ass. Whew, oh my god. So last two, super easy. Equal and symmetry. Equal, I never use. Could use it. Could be handy. I do something different. We'll talk about it later when we get to parameters. So say I have a circle right here. I go circle, 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 and I want these things to be equal, right? So I can say this one right here is equal to that one right there. Ta-da! Equal. I could say I've got a line here. I don't know about this here. This line, equal. So they should kind of stay the same. It's kind of weird with the lines. Now, if I want to add on to this, or here, let's get rid of this. Do this all over here. If I have a whole bunch of squares that we just draw out here, circles would have been easier. And I want to, yeah, this is going to be kind of dumb. I can pick all the edges of the rectangle here, and I can say equal, and now all of those right-hand sides are all equal, you see? Circle's better. Did those stick? No. Okay. Hold down Control, pick everything, make them all equal. They all jump to the same as one of them, probably the first one I picked. And now if I change them, they all change size. The benefit here, of course, is I can hit a dimension, and now they'll all stay that dimension. So that's okay. Yeah, begrudgingly, I kind of want to say that's okay. I prefer usually, and I think I don't have any good reason to do this as opposed to that. I would do a thing like this, and you hit dimension, like so, and maybe we make this one 300, and then this one over here, we go ahead and make it 300 also, but you don't. I want this one to be the same as that one, so you just wipe it all out, and you click this one. That happens to be dimension 8 in this scheme of things, so you hit enter, and now it's the same as. All in all, is that any different? Maybe I would like to say that cursorily, or just when you open a sketch quickly, you can see that this has all been dimensioned. I know that this is, yeah, there you go. I know that this is equal to that one right there. It tells me kind of that it's a formula based on here. Whereas if I had multiple things that were equal to something, and multiple things were equal to something else, and multiple things that were equal to something else, I might not know which thing was equal to what, potentially. But use it as you see fit. So the last thing on the list is symmetry. So that's this one right down here. So symmetry is pretty much the same thing as mirror right here, but kind of after the fact. So let's look at it. So I could say, let's do a line tool. That's kind of the go-to for this. So I hit this. Now I have this. What I want to do is I want to make another shape that's just kind of like it over here, you see, roughly. And I want to make them the same. Again, this is not a mirror per se, because we've already made them. So I need to say that this is in the same spot as this. We're doing it by points is what you typically do this by. So I'm going to say that this point right here is in the same spot across some feature as the other. And you're looking at this, and kind of the assumption that gets made is, well, we mean this thing right here. And there's nothing actually here. I can't select that green line, which is unfortunate, Fusion 360 people. It would be nice if you could. So what you have to do is come over here and you make a line, make it vertical, hit escape, and I take this line, hold down Control. Remember our first one here? Coincident. So I hit that. That's going to snap that to that line right there. Now this will give me a line that I can mirror, so to speak, make these two things symmetrical across. So that's how this statement works. This thing and this thing are equal across this thing. I'm saying it that way because that's how you select it. So I could pre-select, or I'll just come over here and click the button. So I click it, and it's thinking that idea. This thing, that thing, line to be across. If I pick the line first and then this, it's going to think that I want this equal across between some other line. So I'm going to pick this, I pick that, make sure you actually just pick the dot, and then you pick that. Oops, there we go. And now they're symmetrical. So there, see they match, right? So there's the icon and the symbol, and now when I move them, they move equally. They move equally across that line. The way I prefer to do it is hold down Control and pre-select, because when you pick this, I pick this first. Now first you had to make sure you deselect everything. Then I come over here and I pick this line and point, and then I pick this one here, but I accidentally maybe, you know, pick something I don't want. Not that big of a deal. Then I pick this, they're even. Or come down here, hit Control, that, symmetrical line. This, that, symmetrical line. Okay? Now our whole part is mirrored, so to speak. Okay? Like I said, you do this after the fact because maybe you just already did a thing. Maybe because with the mirror tool, you typically know that you're going to do that going into it, so you draw half of a feature and then you mirror it across like this line. This one would be, say, like you started doing something and it's kind of this shape, and then afterwards you realize, oh yeah, they are kind of even. Let's go ahead and make them symmetrical. Also, you might do it because, I mean, you can still do this with the mirror command too, but maybe, as I'm deleting these things right here, maybe you did it because, chose to use it because I want these two to be symmetrical, but these not. You see? So there's that. That's the symmetry tool. While I'm here, let me show you that in contrast to the mirror tool. So I got a line, I got half a shape right here. If I come up here, I hit mirror. It says which objects do you want to mirror, and then which mirror line do you want to mirror it across. So I want this, that, and that. 3 objects. You have to make sure you pick the next spot, and then you hit this line, and then it mirrors across. Now watch what happens when I hit OK. Thinking. There. Look familiar? So it did throw a couple more here along the line inside there, but the effect is the same. We have symmetry, we have a mirror. All right. So that's going to be it, finally, for this journey down the sketch constraints over here. There's some other features we want to look at, some of this stuff up here. Most importantly, we want to talk about construction elements. And then, of course, I'm going to do a video, like I said, on the tangency and curvature to kind of hit that in a little bit more detail. All right? So, thanks.